My name is Councillor Haug and I am the Vice Chair and the Chair tonight. I would like to welcome you all to South Area Committee, taking place on 7th of March at 7 p.m. We have received apologies from Councillor Page Croft, Ashton and Dryden, I think, and in the chat, I think also from Councillor Lee, although we will of course go through the names right now. I will now call the councillors alphabetically to see who is present. Can you just briefly indicate whether you're present or not? So that's Councillor Cox. I can see his name there. Yeah. Councillor Davies.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
You're there. Okay, Councillor Davies is present. Only Councillor Dryden is not. Councillor Flaubert does not seem to be present. Councillor Lee, so it looked like an apology in the chat, so apparently he's not. Yeah, he's not present. And Councillor McPherson. County Councillor Beckett, I can see him.
Present.
Councillor Goodliff.
Present.
And Councillor Slatter. Okay, not present. The officers permanently at the table for this meeting are Area Committee Lead Officer Dave Prinsep, Head of Property Services, Committee Manager James Goddard, who is today replaced by meeting producer Gary Clift, who is in the Guildhall. Thank you very much for stepping in. Other officers and public speakers will join us throughout the course of the meeting, and I will introduce them at the start of the relevant agenda items. If anyone has any problems hearing me throughout the meeting, please alert me by waving your hand or type in the chat function. Some housekeeping issues. Copies of the agenda can be found on the City Council's website, where committee meetings, minutes and agendas. Can I ask all participants to keep themselves muted, unless, of course, it's your turn to speak. And if councillors or members of the public would like to ask a question or get the attention of the chair, then please type speak in the chat function, and then we will call on you to speak. The committee manager will regularly check the chat function. Please try and refer to specific page numbers within the agenda if you're referring to a specific paragraph. This meeting is being recorded, and it's also broadcast via the council's website, and public speakers are reminded that by speaking or appearing in this meeting, you are giving consent to being recorded. The process for each agenda item will be the relevant officer will introduce it. Councillors and members of the public can then speak or ask questions, and the committee manager will check the Democratic Services email inbox to see whether there are any public questions sent by email. For the comfort of councillors, officers and the public, I may choose to call short breaks during the proceedings. I actually don't think that will be necessary. It doesn't look like a very long meeting tonight. If there are no comments or questions about any of this, then we can move on to agenda item 2. Has anyone anything to declare? Any declarations of interest? If that is not the case, then let's move on to agenda item 3, the notes of the 29th of November 2021 meeting. Any concerns or corrections, comments, then please raise them now. So we can't approve minutes because we are, as the meeting at the moment, are non-decision making, but we can potentially correct or amend the minutes. There were no actions from the last notes, so no matters and actions arising. But if you wish to raise any points relating to the previous meeting or other meetings, then please do so now. Okay, there seems to be nothing on. I can see Councillor McPherson has joined us. Welcome. So we are now at agenda item 4, the open forum. This item may last for up to 30 minutes, but it can be extended or shortened depending on demand. Are there any questions that are not covered by later agenda items? Committee manager, are there any items in the mailbox?
get any chairs, so we've just got the one from the Residents Association.
Okay, in that case, I invite Imogen Blackburn-Horgan to ask her question, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can, at least I can.
Awesome. So I just want to set the scene that today, Monday, is one of our quietest days of the week. Our 3 cul-de-sacs have had illegal motorbikes come in at speed illegally over the pavement from 9 Wells and go out illegally via the cycle path into the NHS/CBC site. An emergency service vehicle named with a fire engine got lost and wrongly entered Red Cross Lane, then Greenland, not knowing that this was a dead end. An ambulance parked on Red Cross Lane for a smoking break as cannot smoke on the NHS site. 7 private hire vehicles parked on double yellow lines, not picking up or dropping off at excess times. 4 cars pavement parked on double yellow lines. Junctions had numerous vehicles both parked and trailing from school run until the time of this meeting. My question is, how can an area like ours, Red Cross Lane, Stansgate Avenue, Greenland, CB2, that is swamped by issues coming into our 3 tiny cul-de-sacs to access the hospital/CBC, plus travelling through from Trumpington, get support to design out the problems?
Thank you very much for your question. Would anyone like to address this point? I mean, either from the ward or a council officer. Okay, Councillor Beckett, please.
Hello, and thank you, Imi, for that. I really understand the problems that you're getting in Red Cross Lane, and really appreciate all the work you've been doing to highlight them and come up with solutions. I know you actually sent me the other day a really good PDF of all the traffic solutions you believe will work to help improve things in Red Cross Lane. So thank you very much for that. You're probably aware of the LHI process, which happens every year, usually towards the summer, autumn time. And yes, we will very much be looking through that and having a chat to you to find out which of those we can implement and how we can implement them from a highways department perspective to try and bring some of those issues under control. I really hope the police and parking control and others can also help with that from an enforcement perspective. But as your county councillor, definitely be picking it up from what we can do from a highways perspective.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Davies, please.
Thank you. Yes, Imi, I think one of the many great services you render is to document what's going on here. And Alex has covered what he can do through the county council as the highways authority. I think it's incumbent upon us as city councillors to address the responsibility of the planning process and our role as the planning authority in making sure that we don't compound the problems that you're already experiencing or replicate them in other locations. And as you know, that's why the discussion around plans for further expansion at the biomedical campus are so critical to how Queen Edith exists as a community and as a neighbourhood in the future. So it may feel frustrating at the moment. Please keep documenting it. Please keep the pressure on, because it's only by being able to talk, as you did in your introduction, about a snapshot of one day and then expand that over a longer period that we can really get to the bottom of the circumstances that you and your neighbours are enduring week in, week out. Thank you.
I can see PC Horsfall.
Hi, Imi. Thank you for your question. I think we've met before, Imi, and I know you've had some dealings with my colleague PC, Andy Shed. Just from a policing perspective, we do regularly patrol that area, Greenlands, the Red Cross area, and we will continue to monitor that area and scan for any incidents, but do, as Councillor Davies has just said, do continue to report any incidents, particularly, you mentioned the antisocial driving of the mopeds. Send that through to our team or report via online, and we'll try and identify the offenders for that. But yes, continue to report it, and we'll come round when we can and try and deal with any issues. Hopefully you've seen us in the area recently. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I mean, I guess one of the most frequent advice we give residents on the doorstep is usually keep reporting, because of course telling your councillors is also important. I mean, they can push, they can give priority to issues, and at the same time, I mean, we need the evidence base, and I guess PC Horsford can confirm. I mean, they need the evidence, they need the statistics to see where the hotspots are and the peak times for certain types of offences. So thank you very much for raising this at this committee. Would you like to have to make any further comments, Imi?
I just want to say thank you to everybody, the police, the council, the councillors, and especially Sam and Alex who've just talked. And thank you everyone for listening to all of this.
Of course, we always appreciate positive feedback as well, however rare it is. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Imi. I mean, if there's nothing more to say on this issue, then can we move on to item number 5? And now we are with policing and safer neighbourhoods. So we are joined by Paul Rogerson from the police, Karen Jelly, the City Council Community Safety Manager, and Rachel Fairhead, City Council Antisocial Behaviour Officer. I am assuming there are no public speakers tonight. Committee Manager, can you confirm?
That's correct, Chair.
Yes. So the virtual area committee will not be making decisions, just as a reminder. So we will not vote on priorities set by the police. The police will report back on the local areas of concern they are currently focusing on. Councillors and members of the public cannot change these, but they can suggest ideas, issues for the future to focus on, so just to guide our discussion. So if I understood correctly, Officer Fairhead, are you going to introduce this item, please?
Sorry, Councillor, I do apologise. I was on mute there. Yes, good evening, everyone. Obviously, the report has been disseminated to all the members. I'll just briefly give a précis of what the antisocial behaviour and community safety team have been doing in the South area since the last meeting. We've obtained 2 injunctions based on individuals causing some serious ASB, and in January, following breaches of one of these injunctions, we've gone back to court for committal proceedings, and we are now awaiting a sentencing date. We're also in the process of pursuing possession of a property, sorry, lots of P's there, due to reports of serious ASB and drug-related activity, and we have gained possession of another property again for similar issues. We're also working with colleagues in the police for issuing acceptable behaviour contracts and seeking possession or serving a notice of seeking possession on another property. The community safety team has also funded some detached youth work in the Queen Edith area in response to some issues that have been raised by residents to us. And we're also looking into recent complaints of ASB behaviour, including begging and drinking in a bus stop in Trumpington, and we're working with lots of partner agencies, including police and support, to deal with this. The ASB officer leading on the case has contacted many complainants and left contact details with the garage nearby that's being affected by some individuals there. We've also worked with police in setting up a youth problem solving group to discuss a group of young people who are causing problems in the Trumpington area, and we are applying and looking to install remote CCTV cameras for the guided busway. And also linking in with the Cambridge Community Safety Partnership, the multi-agency cycle crime prevention task group is continuing to share experience and expertise in identifying gaps and areas to focus work to tackle and support reduction in cycle crime. The City Council is the interim chair for this group, and stakeholders are working together from businesses and other agencies. And they continue to promote the Save Our Cycles campaign for the public to encourage locking and registering bicycles on things like various websites. So if they are stolen, they can be traced. That's about it from us. If anyone has any questions.
Are there any questions right now or comments? Otherwise, I must say I'm a little bit, I don't exactly know what the sequence of speakers is here now. I mean, if somebody from either PC Horsfall or Rogerson or Officer Jelly feel that they should go next, then please indicate if you would like to speak.
Chair, if you don't mind, I think it makes sense for me to go next, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, good evening, everyone. I think I've met quite a few of you before. So I'm PC George Horsfall, based in the South Cambridge City neighbourhood team. Sergeant Chris Bockham's asked me to step in tonight because he's moved on to a different role, and Sergeant Rossiter has joined the team today. So I'm just going to go through the four main areas that were discussed at the last meeting in September and talk about what we've been doing over the past 6 months. Firstly, I would like to say thank you to members of the public, councillors and all other agencies that we've been working on with on a variety of issues, because I think we've made some really good connections, and the help of you all has really helped to get some good results from a policing perspective, particularly residents reporting issues and working with us on those issues. So thank you for that. So I'll firstly go through the first issue of continued work to tackle vehicle related and social behaviour and driving across the south of the city. So the main operation that encompasses vehicle related nuisance is Operation Crossfade, and that is ongoing to identify the key hotspot areas across the south of Cambridge City and the key offenders that we can work with to deal with that behaviour. One of the main issues over the past few months has been the Trumpington Park and Ride site. We've had numerous reports from councillors, members of the public, that we've had a variety of issues there since the end of last year and into January at time, including vehicle related vehicle nuisance, drug dealing and general and social behaviour. So we've created an OSARA model, which is observation, scanning, analysis and response, and then assessment. So we've set one of those up, and we've worked with councillors and members of the public to identify the key offenders. CCTV has been secured at the location now, which is brilliant. We've worked with the managers there, so we've got 2 cameras that can be used to both prevent the issues continuing, but also to gather evidence to identify those offenders. Police patrols have been ongoing at the area, and on the 22nd of January, a large car meet was dispersed, and those that attended were spoken to, and one Section 59 warning was issued. And since that date, I've not had any more reports from members of the public or anyone that there's been any further issues from that park and ride site. So hopefully, that's a good sign. We've continued to patrol the Trumpington area for any vehicle related nuisance and have issued traffic offence reports, including those to youths that we've spotted driving antisocially and also without any L plates. Obviously that affects their driving licence. So we've issued reports to them, which again sends a message to other youths in the area that, if you're committing offences on mopeds or other vehicles, that we are going to tackle them and tackle them robustly. And again, we're going to continue to monitor the park and ride site and also speeding in the area. I'll move on to the second point, that's continue work, patrols diverting young people away from crime and antisocial behaviour across the south of Cambridge City, with specific focus on the Trumpington area. I would say that's our main priority for the Trumpington area, and social behaviour and youth-related crime. That seems to be, the main priority for us. And from what we've been hearing from members of the public, we need to focus on that. So what have we been doing is that we've been continue to monitor the area. We've been working with the local residents, the resident associations, the antisocial behaviour teams and councillors. In terms of the guided busway, as Rachel from the ASB team has stated, at the end of last year we held a youth problem solving group which looked at the main key offenders that we identified causing issues within that area, and looked at specifically what we could do around them in terms of housing, their family workers, the antisocial behaviour team, and that work is still ongoing. And we've had some good results of those that have been identified as causing the key issues. A few of them have been arrested, interviewed, and those investigations are still ongoing. In terms of Walpole Road, we've had issues on Walpole Road, particularly at the shops area near the St Bede's Crescent. We've been working with the schools, the antisocial behaviour team, to identify those offenders, and local residents really helped in identifying who those key individuals were. And we've gone into the schools and actually spoke with them, and I believe that has helped the issue. Yeah, and also we're trying to get a CCTV camera put up at the Hobson Square junction of the guided busway, so that should be up, hopefully up soon. In terms of drug dealing, moped riding and antisocial behaviour around Cherry Hinton Rec and Cherry Hinton Hall, I believe this was an issue at the end of last year. We conducted patrols, particularly around the Foxgloves recreation ground, which I believe is where the issues were with moped riders going around the estate and causing issues within that park. So we did some high-vis patrols and also plain clothes patrols. And from speaking with the residents affected, we identified who we thought was the main offender and spoke with them. And after speaking with them and giving some words of advice, I believe that the issue actually stopped in that area. But we do continue to patrol the Cherry Hinton area and Cherry Hinton Hall Park as well for any drug dealing or vehicle related nuisance. However, I don't believe we've had many results of drug dealing in that area, so I don't know whether that's still ongoing or it's not been reported to us. And then finally, bike theft in Ninewells and Trumpington ward. We've continued patrols in that area and have worked with the Design Out Crime officers and had some partnership working with the residents, the housing associations, to try and target harden those particular hotspot areas that we've had cycle theft from, try and secure the cycle points better, so that any offenders can't easily take the bikes. However, we have had particularly in the Trumpington area, we've had a report come back from our kind of intelligence teams that have done a breakdown of the main hotspot areas in Trumpington. And one of these identifies key hotspot areas of bike theft in the Trumpington ward. So moving forward, we'll look at those particular hotspot areas and what more can we do to target harden those specific areas and patrol those areas to catch any offenders. And then moving on to any other work that we've been doing over the past few months. Hopefully you've seen on the report, there's quite a big list. I'll just name a few. Osprey Drive, we've secured a closure order. That closure order was extended at court, and now we've had full repossession of that property. And from speaking with the Residents Association and members of the local community within that area from Osprey Drive, a lot of the issues caused from that specific address have now subsided. So that's a really good result. The Trumpington Park and Ride is still ongoing. Scholars Court area, which is just off Hills Road, we had another closure order there. So that resident that was causing issues has been moved out of the area. And then again, ongoing work around Beaumont Road and Wolfston Way with a particular individual that's been causing some alarm, distress to members of the public. That member of that person has been identified and is currently in prison at the minute. But yes, thank you. That's all from me for now. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. That was great. Thank you. I mean, there's a question that seems to be maybe related to what we've heard so far. So if you don't mind, maybe I'll read. And I'm not quite sure exactly what Councillor Macpherson's question about Church End will be about. I mean, if he feels like this is a good time to ask the question, we can ask it after this one. But there's a question.
Yeah, I'm happy to wait, Chair, no problem.
Okay, great. I mean, there's a question from Trumpington Resident Association. Can the reporting of ASB driving online be outlined? It is not clear when using the online form and very onerous wanting witness details. So you have to just keep duplicating information to get through the form. Thank you. I guess just some clarity is asked for the clarification. So.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I'm aware of that issue. That's already been sent to the team that kind of monitor and deal with the website. I'm still waiting a response back from the team that deal with that, but hopefully I can get that expedited to try and get an extra function on the report tool so that we can get vehicle antisocial behaviour or vehicle nuisance added, so it's easier to do. So yeah, we'll try and get that sorted.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, Councillor Macpherson, is this your time?
Yep, if everybody's happy, that's fine by me. Church End is an ongoing problem and has been for a number of years. This is it needs a multi-agency approach. So I guess the meeting we're in at the moment will only address part of this. Over a number of years, I guess all the local councils have explored every avenue with every agency, including planning, county council, city council, enforcement agencies, and we're still in the same position that nothing really ever gets sorted. Where this part isn't a police issue, but we are absolutely held to ransom by too many vehicle garages, repair shops that were allowed to open in the area. And we now have both sides of the road, basically wall-to-wall parked vehicles every single day. And in actual fact, it's so bad at the other end of Cherry Hinton that people are selling their homes to move. The other end of Church End, I should say, they're selling their homes to move because the garages are so antisocial in their behaviour, and especially when they're approached by residents, they're very aggressive. But that aside, we have a continuing, ongoing and escalating rat running problem to the extent where the people that are doing it are so prolific and they are doing it on such a regular basis that when residents attempt to say anything to them, they now stop and abuse and shout at the residents. I had 4 complaints, I think it was 2 days ago. Yeah, day before yesterday, 4 complaints on the same day within an hour of these rat runners. They don't live here, doing exactly the same thing when residents are so fed up with them that they try and slow them down. So 2 of them screeched to a halt and were shouting abuse at the residents and get off and then get back in their cars and wheel spin up the road just to prove the point. And that's what we're being subjected now most evenings when it's going home time. It's got to a situation now where pretty soon what will happen is direct action will be taken by some residents. They're so fed up with it. So only part of that is a police issue, but it's all combined. It's causing significant impact on the area. So to the extent where people are actually selling their homes.
Thank you. I mean, would PC Horsfall or somebody else like to reply to that?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor McPherson, for that. In terms of a police point, we have conducted patrols and we've also done some speed checks in that area. And as Councillor McPherson has already stated, obviously the issue stops when police are present and those speed checks are being conducted. However, we can only do that on an ad hoc basis. It's not something we can obviously be there all the time to conduct those patrols or speed checks. So I think as Councillor McPherson has stated, it also needs work between the police and the council to put in some longer term measures, such as a speed camera or speed bumps or some other traffic slowing measure, I think. But I will contact the Special Constabulary. Actually have a special team dedicated to speeding and road safety. So I'll contact them and see whether we can get some more speed checks done in the area, and hopefully that will help as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, PC Rogerson, is this on this topic?
Yes, please. Really, just to support what Councillor McPherson is saying, I think a multi-agency approach is needed, and where we've, I think, perhaps not succeeded in the past is about the sort of leadership of that plan. So if I might propose that this committee consider adopting that as their own project or their own plan, however you might choose to organise that. We are obviously certainly a major stakeholder around that table. There are obviously other things that we need to explore, some of which will be have been explored before around residents parking and about design and layout, which will need to obviously leverage different parts of the highways manual, etc. And then I think we just need to outline the findings from that in a report, so we have a moment in time that we can have in our corporate memory, if you like. So we can see iteratively how the problem may have improved or got worse, and also so we can understand, as this meeting moves from different councillors and different officers, we can understand what's been tried before, what's been learnt. Because as Councillor McPherson says, we've tried and failed many times, but I'm not sure we could confidently put our finger on why we've failed or what we've done so far. So I think that sort of capturing where we are would be very useful. A SITREP led by the committee, who also have obviously devolved powers to look at certain modifications to the road layout, pre-funding, etc. But we could explore that in a separate group.
Thank you very much. I think if I kept track correctly, I think it's Councillor Slater next who posted a question in the chat.
Sorry, Chair, to interrupt. If I can just come back on that, because I don't get many chances to do this, and the thing about that, that the officers are quite right, and of course, as Paul knows, I've worked with Cambridge Police for many years, so they are always in my favourite frame. So they've done what they can, but just to answer some of Paul's questions, we have tried all of the above. And all we get from County Council is the same three words: there's no money. They absolutely refuse to spend money in Church End. And my belief is, the residents' belief is that they don't want to, because they don't want the traffic redirected down Coldham's Lane. They're quite happy for Church End to be used as a cut through. So then, they don't have to spend the money. Two, it doesn't then pile up the traffic in Coldham's Lane. And everybody absolutely agrees with that. Our county councillor has already put in an application to extend the speed bumps, so they only put, after 2.5 years work, they managed to put in 3 speed bumps that are totally useless because they're too small, and now they won't finish the rest of it, which we only got a reply to a couple of weeks ago. So they won't put any more speed bumps in, so all the rest of the road gets nothing. And they refuse to cut the road in half, as everybody wants, which would alleviate the problem overnight. Cheap, effective, no one can get through, so there won't be any speeding. But they refuse to do that as well. So we've been to the county council countless times over the last 15 years. This isn't something over a few months. This has been going on for 15 years and plus, and they will not spend money here. They will not police it. They will not have a proper road layout, and our belief is they just don't want the traffic on Coldham's Lane. So, Paul, I'm absolutely with you. But how we get the county council to actually acknowledge we exist and to do anything is another matter, because I've been a councillor since 2004. At the moment, I'm the mayor of the city, and I can get nothing done. And my neighbours are thinking, hang on, this chap's been a councillor all this time. He's been mayor twice, well, 3 times now, and can't get a single thing done. So you can imagine our frustration with that.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, is there a direct reply from PC Horsfall or PC Rogerson? Otherwise, I think it's Councillor Slatter next. I'm sure she has something to say about this.
I mean, Russ knows. Okay, he's been mayor more often than me, but he does know. I mean, there's been a change of administration at the county. There's much less inclination to listen. There's much greater inclination to listen to local people. There are plans for decentralisation, particularly things to do with highways. So I'm sure that we can do better. Remind me, is it Bryony who's your county councillor?
Yeah, that's right. And she tried really hard.
Yeah, I know. And the thing is that we are still dealing with a backlog of local highway improvement things, and a slightly unhelpful officer attitude. But I see we've got Ingrid Flogebear. We know we've had this problem on Grantchester Road in terms of speeding. I'm sure we are going to be able to turn this oil tank around eventually. So please don't give up, Russ. And let's not try and, be going at the county council too hard, because we're in the business with you.
Can I speak out of turn slightly?
And I think, oh yeah, good, you're coming, Alex. Especially yes. Where we've got wards with a district boundary, it's the county that needs to act. You're absolutely right, Russ. And here comes Alex he's on the Highways Committee, so I can back off. I didn't see you were here, sorry.
Is it directly a reply to this? I mean, the sequence would be Councillor Davies has been waiting and then Councillor Flaubert. But if this is a direct reply to what has just been said.
It was a direct follow-on from what Philippa was saying at county level. I'm happy if Sam wants to come in, that's fine as well. But it was a direct follow-on with a bit more knowledge and information than Philippa had.
No, Councillor Beckett, you go for it. Makes much more sense.
So I just wanted to follow up on from Philippa. Russ, as far as I'm aware, the LHI for that one, I was on the LHI panel. And I know there was an LHI bid for speed bumps down there. I wasn't aware that had been turned down yet. I wasn't aware that the LHI formal gradings had come out yet. So that might still be successful as far as I am aware. Secondly, I know you talked about cutting it in half. From what I understand, there is a big concern from officers there about being able to do that due to HGV turning, and that there is no good way to be able to do that. It might make sense for us to catch up at some point. But from what I understand, there are technical issues with doing the cutting it off in the middle, as was explained to me. But the LHI bid, I believe, is still ongoing and has yet to be, the results of that have yet to come out.
Okay, Councillor Macpherson already replied in the chat. So I think then maybe we can move on to Councillor Davies, please.
Hello, thank you. Going back to some of the other points on the policing report. First of all, thank you, PC Horsfall, for the support that you have given local residents in the matter concerning Wolfson Way and Beaumont Road. That's been great, and hopefully that's heading towards a resolution. My question, well, I have 2 questions really. One is, you've done clearly a huge amount of engagement now with different manifestations of undesirable behaviour, particularly in the new settlements in Trumpington. Can I ask, do you have an understanding of what's driving it? Where is this coming from? In a spirit of learning and avoiding repetition of mistakes, I know it's probably a multitude of issues, but is there a kind of top level summary you can give us from your understanding of the people you've engaged with that will help us understand what's driving this behaviour? So that's the first question. And then the second one, the bike theft issue. I noticed the specific language you used in the report about to hold housing agents and landowners somewhat accountable for the safety of their tenants' property. Are you able to tell me, were the housing agents and the landowners willing partners in that process, or did you have to get quite tough with them? Because the impression I got from residents is that they weren't being listened to. So I'd be interested to know how hard you had to push to get them to be somewhat accountable. Thank you.
Good. Would you like to reply? Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Davies, for your comments and questions. In relation to the first one around the youths, particularly in Trumpington, and what's driving them, around that question, I think one of the main issues we've come up with is, so they're committing offences, and we suspect that they're involved in a lot of these issues, particularly on the guided busway. One of the main issues I think we've got is that it's been hard to prove to a criminal standard to progress investigations, to get any kind of prosecution or positive outcomes with the youths, to try and make them understand that their behaviour is not acceptable. So we've tried other points from more of a civil route from the housing agencies. We're speaking with the youths directly. We're trying to get the housing agencies and associations to do more with the addresses, working with the youths to offer them support around their behaviour, and speaking with them as to why they're committing these offences, and try and get them help in terms of help with extracurricular activities from youth groups, etc. So I think we need to go back and look at again, at this point in time, what more can we do? And that's the plan that we're going to come up with, and hopefully the funding from, for example, the antisocial behaviour team for youth groups and stuff will help. So I think that's one of the main issues, that we often don't have enough evidence to progress the investigations to a criminal standard, that being beyond all reasonable doubt. So things such as the CCTV camera, for example, on the guided busway, particularly where these offences are happening, will help with that evidence. So hopefully that will help. In terms of your second question around the housing agencies, it'd be hard for me to comment because I didn't write that specific wording, and this report was written by Sergeant Bockham. But I believe some of my colleagues did work with the housing agencies, and they put in some extra measures. But yeah, I didn't write that report. Sorry. Hopefully that answers the question somewhat.
Councillor Davies, would you like to add something or reply?
Just to say that I completely understand the point you're making about reaching the necessary threshold for sanctions to be invoked. My question really was about the other side of it, which is the reasons why they engage in this in the first place. And I guess you have given me an answer to that, which is that there's an absence of meaningful activity for them to get engaged with, or is that putting words in your mouth?
I think that may be one of the problems. I don't think it would be the only problem. I think there's multiple reasons why these groups may offend in the way that they are. It may be background, the groups that they're hanging around with, not enough support. It can be a multitude of reasons, really, I would say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Councillor Floberg, please.
Hello, good evening, and thank you very much. Horsefall for the report. I have, well, it's similar comments I'm going to make as Councillor Davies. So I'm going to start with that first. So you identify that they are young offenders. I wonder if you could tell me what age ranges they are, and also I am very interested, because I used to be a teacher, what kind of activities, because you mentioned that you're working with the school with diverting possible activities that they can be doing. I also wonder if it's a problem of maybe getting more engaged, their families on this, because usually the problem is that they have problems at home, they have problems in the school, and they have nothing else to do. So they need support, and I wonder what are we doing to help these families. So maybe it's a question of mentorship, a long-term project for this family, for these youngsters, where they can be engaged in different activities, not only in the school, because they might hate the school. My other thing I wanted to mention is that thank you so much for sorting out the CCTV cameras in Hobson Square and also the busway. That will really help many residents here. We will feel a lot more safety. And then I'm a little bit concerned. Here in Trumpington, we have mainly problems with vehicle disturbances in summertime. There is very little during winter time, and then about the drug dealing activities, I have some residents who have come to me and they have said, I've never seen anything. So I wonder if we have any evidence of these activities in the park and ride, or is it just people complaining about it? Because I live quite close, and I certainly have to say that I never encounter any activity. It doesn't mean that it doesn't happen, but at the same time, I wonder if we have any evidence of this. Thank you.
Okay, I guess that was directly to PC Horsefall. Would you like to reply to?
Shall I take the first bit around youth provision, then you can go to the Trumping. So the sort of nature of what I do, Councillor, is I'm interconnected with a lot of the early help services that are provided across Cambridge. In terms of intervention, we've got a number of kind of hyper-localised schemes that we put together across the partnership to deal with the bespoke issues in Cambridge City. Then, of course, there's the wider provision of youth services, and then there's obviously the core of the kind of voluntary sector and what they provide in the south part of Cambridge as well. We have a partnership approach to young people who fit the profile that George has described, typically anything from about 13 to 18 years old. It's called Transforming Lives. It's a partnership piece of work that we've been running for about 6 years now. We have run in the last 2 years cohorts within with the schools in the south part of the city and across right across. The common push and pull factors for those young people tend to be within the family setting, as you suggested, so an absence of a role model within the family. Parental capability within the household. So the scheme that we run also has a link to what's called the Triple P scheme, which is an online parenting class for parents as well as young people. And then the core Transforming Lives scheme delivers lots of different types of interventions around decision making, right the way through to lived experience. We have reformed offenders that come and speak to people. We do team building and confidence building and aspiration building activities with them. That's a scheme that's currently led by the early help team. Police, fire, the county council ASB team are involved as well. And we've previously funded that using proceeds of Crime Act funding. So it's a really nice story of bad money turned good. We're looking to continue those schemes through this next financial year. Funding seems to be in place for those, so we'll continue with that. At that kind of voluntary level, you'll recall 2019 through to 2021, we bid into the Cultivate and Innovate Fund and again the POCA funds to deliver 2 schemes in the South area called Who Let the Dads Out and Kids Matter, two schemes that were run by faith groups to help build resilience in those same sorts of households. There's lots going on in that space, but I guess my message is that there's room for more. And we need that kind of voluntary network to step forward and do that. And we're quite happy to kind of put you in contact with people that can help with that. We've tried things like boxing clubs as well, which I'm sure you're aware of. And then, of course, there's all the stuff that happens in the sort of curricular activities within the school. So there's a massive suite of stuff that happens. But I guess the reason I bring all of that into the round here is because there's more space in the voluntary in the voluntary space really to do more, and we've got I think communities lead now, Jessica Freeman, Jessica Kennedy, who is commissioned by the County Council and is here to get groups up and running and in touch with funding and schemes that can help deliver those sort of things. If you've got that background from education that you can kind of point us towards volunteers, we can certainly do more in that space. And the potential there is absolutely huge, and we know that it has good benefits, and it really is kind of the key to a lot of the reduction. So hopefully that answers the first question. Perhaps that's another discussion that we can take out. And I'll hand the second bit back to George, if that's all right.
Of course, please.
Yeah, thank you. In relation to the second question, just about the specific information we have about drug dealing at the Park and Ride, the main issues that we had from residents near to the Park and Ride were around vehicle nuisance and social behaviour and vehicle meets. However, I believe that there was a few add-ons to those reports around potential drug dealing. However, no, I don't think it was the main problem in that area. But obviously, if that is an issue that you're aware of, or any other residents nearby, feel free to report it online or submit intelligence online for us to look into that a bit more.
Okay, thank you very much. I thought I saw some more hands up earlier, which have disappeared. So I hope they didn't give up. I mean, if anyone would like to raise their hand again. Otherwise, I hope also that I haven't overlooked Officer Jelly. Would you like to add anything to this item, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry, my camera isn't somehow connecting, so I can't show myself. But I'm new in as the Community Safety Manager at Cambridge City Council, so I just wanted to sit in on this meeting to introduce myself and also to get a sense of all that's going on in the area committees. And just to say, really, just to add to what's already been mentioned, is that our team, Community Safety, works very closely with the police and other partners in coordinating a lot of this activity, and we're really happy to work in partnership as we do to arrange things like the CCTV and pull together work on programmes that have been mentioned, like Transforming Lives, and on the CAMS Against County Lines project as well.
Thank you very much, and welcome to the committee. Are there any further comments? I mean, has there been anything in the mailbox? I mean, committee manager, any further questions or comments?
No, there's no more in the mailbox, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Flaubert, I assume your hand it's still the same hand as before. I mean, if that's indeed the case, and there's nothing more on this item, then we can move on to agenda item 6. So thank you very much for the productive discussion that we've just had. So we are now joined by Jackie Hansen, the Community Funding and Development Manager. Officer Hansen, could you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Chair. This is the annual report that comes to this committee detailing the applications received for 22-23 funding for projects for the South area. These applications are detailed in Appendix 1. You'll see there's 9 applications been received. 8 have got the actual are actually recommended for the full amount that's been requested, and there's 1 that doesn't meet the remit of the fund and hasn't got an award recommendation at this point. Also, this report provides information on an opportunity offered for local communities to celebrate the Platinum Jubilee. This area has received 7 applications. Those are detailed in Appendix 3 of the report, and all of those have been recommended for the full amount of funding that they've requested. Section 3 of the report really gives you the background of the fund with the criteria, the process that we've undertaken, and in 3.3 you've got information about the budget. And at this point, for the south area for this year, £17,969 was allocated, and if the recommendations are approved following the consideration by this committee, that'll leave £328 remaining to consider any inquiries that we have going forward. I think actually at this point most of the information is around the projects that's detailed in the appendices, so I'm happy to take any comments, considerations, questions, Chair.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Are there any questions or comments? I can still see Councillor Flaubert's hand up.
I would like to speak now, please.
Okay, you may. You may.
I have a question. Oh, sorry, can't see. Yeah, Hanson. Basically, I wanted to know, given that this is public money, how do you make sure that certain activities they are also for the wider community? For example, some of the grants that have been granted here for Trumpington, I wonder how we make sure that these activities can be enjoyed by many children, and not only the children, the families that can basically afford to send their children to do these activities. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Each application that we receive is assessed on its own merit, depending on the strengths that it contains in meeting the outcomes of the grant fund, which is to reduce social and economic disadvantage to city residents. The applications don't necessarily have to be available for everybody to attend. As you will see in some of them, it really is a specific and targeted activity to make a difference for some key people in the area. Things like youth clubs, they are the one that Romsey Mill has applied for is an open access club, so people could turn up and attend that. But then on the other hand, you've got some workshops that Cambridge Community Arts have applied for that are very much targeting individuals that will need very specialist and small group work to be able to achieve an outcome for those individuals. So it very much depends on what the activity is as to whether they're open. So we do have a number of them where you've got community celebrations and events such as Trumpington and Cherry Hinton have got Christmas events where the wider community will be attracted to, but not all of the applications, and even in our main round, they are very much targeted to make a difference, and sometimes that can mean for smaller groups where other times it can mean that more people will be able to participate. And I think the difference is that we're really looking, when we're assessing these applications, that all of them are really trying to, we can see how they are targeting the people that really need it the most, not just those who can afford to pay for it. So part of the assessment process really looks at how the applicant has identified the need for the activity and how it's going to target those people to participate in it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you much. Councillor Florbert, would you like to reply to that?
Yes, thank you very much. But I'm just maybe for the future we can think about this, because, for example, drama activities are usually quite expensive, and I wonder if in the future we could take into consideration that maybe disadvantaged children can take a test activity, so they might like it. Many people here in Trumpington are in disadvantage. They can't afford to send their children to these activities. And if there is an opportunity for them to have a test class for free or maybe 2, and then apply for grant for these children to do these activities, that would be very beneficial, especially if we just heard the problem we have with youngsters offending, that it's something that we need for prevention, and it's something that we need to be thinking about it, I believe. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry, Chair. I was just going to say that the drama group that you've mentioned is a really good example that has actually developed from the developments around Trumpington to help integrate the new and old Trumpington communities, that has really been targeted at those families that would not just not be able to afford to go to a traditional drama club, but also that would maybe not have the confidence or skills. Very much it's a community drama project that has evolved with the community and supported very much by the parents and local people. So I agree with you. It really is around making sure these activities are meeting those needs and not just more generic for people that can go and find those activities elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, Councillor Davies, you indicated that you wanted to speak on this particular issue.
Yes, if that's all right. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to reassure Councillor Florbert that having applied for these grants in the past on behalf of the Community Forum, that the application process and indeed the monitoring process after the event both really require you to justify what you have done to make your event targeted at people in socio and economic disadvantage. And so I think my experience of having gone through this is that they are pretty well scrutinized and vetted to ensure that the spend is directed at the people who can most benefit from it. So I don't know if that's reassuring from you, but that's a bit of user feedback. I do have another question for Jackie, but I can wait in line in an orderly fashion behind Councillor Slatter for that.
I would just like to give Councillor Slatter the opportunity to, I mean, if it's related to the previous topic, to jump in.
Well, it did so happen before Ingrid spoke. I was going to say how much I welcomed the money coming to the community drama, because as Jackie has pointed out, it is very much an inclusive group. But because the leader, Kelly Smith, is a very able youth worker, as well as very able with the arts, performing arts and the expressive arts of one sort or another, I think she's saved young lives already. I don't think she's on this meeting, but I think one cannot speak too highly of her. She was paid for by the development to start with, and is now, I'm very glad to say, well embedded in the City Council, and she is a key leader on the new Trumpington Youth Partnership, which we're putting together, starting off with council officers, but extending to the community. And in terms of who can actually access this drama group, for example, they're doing a visit to live theatre in London, and they've been fundraising to enable some of those tickets to be given to youngsters from households who would never be able to afford live theatre. And the Stitchers, for example, were selling decorations to raise money for these bits, etc., etc. So it is good. It is inclusive, though. It also includes my grandchildren. I won't say that they're particularly needy, but I think you need a full spread in any group. But you also need a helping hand discreetly in the background for the ones who need it. And I was going to protest about one of the things I'd supported not getting in for similar reasons, because it wasn't considered to be inclusive enough. I could argue with that, Jackie, another time maybe. But back to Sam, because it was her turn next. I was going to talk about something else as well.
Okay, yeah. Councillor Davies, please.
Thank you very much. So I just wanted to ask Jackie if she is happy with the spread of grants this year. I mean, obviously with my Queen Edith's hat on, there's not a lot coming our way, and you know, a criticism of that could be that no one put in for it. But do you have any thoughts about the distribution this year, which I think is now a pattern that's been fairly established for the last couple of years? And the second thing is really, I guess, touching on the conversation we've just had. Do these grants need relabeling? Because we call them community grants, but actually they are on the whole very focused for very good reasons at particular slice of Cambridge population. Do you think that the title is potentially misleading? And the third thing is, these are really awkward questions to throw at you in your final week. And can I just take this opportunity to say a very, very, very public thank you to you for all the support you've given us for many, many years now. So thank you.
You stole my line, Sam, but yes, obviously I think everybody agrees here.
Thank you very much for your very kind words, and I'm happy to take your questions in my last week. It's always good to keep being challenged, isn't it? I think your questions are really good ones, Councillor Davies, and obviously when we promote the grants, they go out as widely as we can. We use yourselves as councillors to get them circulated across your wards. We link with our neighbourhood workers. We attend wherever we can. Normally there's less face-to-face that we can get out there at the moment and do that promotion. I think it's never been that the grants have to be equally spread across the different wards for an area, but what we do is when we're assessing them, we try to look at that balance sometimes. Particularly all three other areas have been overspent this year, very heavily bid. This has been the only ward that we haven't spent all of the money in the first tranche of assessments, and I think we may be able to do more around that as our new service areas start to bed down, where we're looking at how our neighbourhood workers and our work across the city differently going forward. You're all aware of the Our Cambridge programme, and I think this slightly touches on your next question, in that the City Council's Our Cambridge Transformation Programme, as that starts to look at the real priorities for the council and how it wants to focus some of those, particularly the ones that come down to working in communities, engaging with communities, community investment, still to be unpicked. It's really there's very little information at this point. It's still in that kind of scoping stage, but I think that is where we need to look at the grants and how these grants, they've not been reviewed for a while. Periodically we look at them to make sure they're targeted, as I believe Councillor Flaubert said earlier, around this is public money, it really needs to make a difference. But that said, there is a lot that activities and communities make a huge difference in a different way that's not always related to poverty, and I think that as we look at these grants going forward, how we can make them agile and flexible and also responsive to community needs, and to help to build those communities in different ways. Maybe the grants don't need renaming. We need some elements of the funding there that can respond to to groups that are emerging in local areas, that we can give some small amounts of funding to help them grow, develop, start building on things. And I don't really want to mention COVID tonight, but we can see the amazing work that's happened within communities, for communities, and how they have responded to need. And I think there are lessons learned there. And how do we utilise some of the way that the council was able to work flexibly with those organisations, funding, not just funding, but other ways that we work and partner to really build on some of that. So I think it is a shame that I'm going, because I kind of was quite excited about the next steps as to how this could develop. And I think your two questions both need to be considered as part of the next steps of the Our Cambridge programme, and how we look at our grants to make sure they're really aligning to the council priorities and making a difference for communities. So I don't know if that really answers it, but I think that they're both questions that we do need to look at. And I am, you asked if I was happy. I am very happy, thank you. Only because I think I get to have a rest after Friday.
Thank you very much, Jackie.
Thank you.
Fantastic. I mean, good to hear that there are still lots of good things happening in the world as well.
Yes,
also reminds us, I think a big part of our job is just to help people help themselves and help local communities, to create activities and help themselves. And I would like to second, of course, Councillor Davies' statement. Thank you very much for years of help. I mean, I'm still quite a new kid on the block, so I don't really know exactly who is who and what's happening, but your name has clearly been mentioned a number of times. So just another little round of applause there.
Thank you, Chair.
But does that mean, okay, Councillor Slater, your hand, there's still a yellow hand?
Yes, I put it up again because as the old lady on the block, Jackie actually helped us set up the pavilion. Do you remember when I was sort of sniffing around trying to get ideas and from all the other community centres, and you were so patient in explaining how? And then over the years, Jackie's often been the one who's been dealing with the service-led agreement with the Trumpington Residents Association. It's hard to know what the future holds, but it's done such a good job. I mean, some of us thought, well, it was going to be a very good temporary measure in advance of the development. And now we have the Clay Farm Centre. There's not quite the same need for the independent voluntary-led one. We'll see whether the volunteers can carry on or not. But it made such a difference, Jackie. So thank you very much. And it won't be the same without you. It really won't. I'm sure you've trained up your successors really well, though.
There's always a good team behind, isn't there? It's not just been me. I can trust. They're all wonderful, and you're in safe hands going forward. So thank you for your kind comments.
Are there any more questions or comments from us? Otherwise, I can just ask the committee manager if there's anything in the mailbox.
No, there's nothing in the mailbox, Chair.
Excellent. Thank you very much then for this very enjoyable and productive, constructive discussion. And we are almost at the end now. So the next South Area Committee meeting, according to my script, will be on the 13th of, what is it? Is it July, isn't it? July this year. So we look forward to see you then, and hopefully many others. So thank you to everyone who took part in tonight's meeting. If there are not any further comments or questions, then I think we've made it. Thank you very much again, also to Jackie and everybody else who was here and gave advice. See you somewhere, someone.